Welcome back to the third video in our five-part series on medical school personal statement advice. Here we'll be discussing common mistakes that applicants make and things you want to make sure to avoid in your personal statement. Now that we've discussed what you should include in your personal statement, which key mistakes should you make sure to avoid? First, try not to dwell too much on your weaknesses. Almost every applicant has one area of their application that they wish was stronger. For example, maybe you got a B minus in your freshman biology class. Or maybe your MCAT score wasn't quite as high as it was on your practice tests. Whatever the case may be, don't go into great discussions about minor weaknesses. Instead, really use your personal statement to highlight your strengths and attributes. Now, in some students' cases, it may be beneficial to explain a major weakness in their application. For example, maybe you weren't quite as focused as you should have been during your first year in college and you got some B's and C's, but then you learn from your experience and you turn things around. If this is the case, make sure you really highlight what it is that you learned from your experience and discuss what steps you took to make sure that this misstep didn't occur again in the future. Second, try and avoid sharing too much very personal information. For example, if you recently went through a tough breakup with your boyfriend or girlfriend, that's unfortunate, but it's not something you should share in your medical school personal statement. With that being said, personal information that revolves around maybe an illness in the family or the death of a close family member, that may be an experience that would be beneficial to share in a personal statement. Third, don't be ashamed of your background. I know a lot of applicants that I talk to are kind of ashamed of the fact that they grew up in a small town or grew up on a farm or went to an undergrad institution that's not as highly ranked as some others. Whatever the case may be, don't be ashamed of your background, embrace it. Use your background to really help describe what makes you different from all the other applicants. In most cases, if you're slightly ashamed of your background, it probably means that your background is actually unique enough that you could use it as a great benefit in your application. So try to do so. Next, we want to make sure that you're not specifically stating what qualities you have, but you want to show the reader what qualities you have and help them draw their own conclusions. What I mean by this is, instead of saying, I'm hardworking, dedicated, and compassionate, share a story that after anyone reads, they would be able to draw those own conclusions and say, oh, this person must be very hardworking, caring, and compassionate. Next, one of the common downfalls that you can see for medical school applicants is that their entire personal statement revolves around one idea. That is that they love science and they love helping others. Now, this is probably true for the majority of medical school applicants, but if this is the entire theme of your personal statement, it really makes for a pretty boring personal statement, to be quite honest. Lastly, a common error that many medical school applicants will make is that they'll say, I've always wanted to be a doctor, or ever since the age of 3, I knew I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. Now, if you really think that this is the case for you, that's great. However, in order to make a mature decision about attending medical school and a mature decision about your career, hopefully this is a decision that was above the level that a 3-year-old can make. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't have decided at a young age that you want to be a doctor. Maybe you did. But hopefully you went through constant reevaluation as you grew up in order to really decide if that's something that you wanted to pursue. And this concludes the third video in our series. Make sure to check out the next video where we'll discuss how to brainstorm topics for your own personal statement and how to actually start the writing process. Remember, don't forget to check out our website at admissionsace.com for more helpful tips and advice for your overall application.